Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. My name is Mickey Taylor, and I would like to welcome you to today's webinar on SEO. During today's webinar, if you have any questions, as usual, please go ahead and type them in the chat section, or you can also put them in the Q&A. It's just easier for me to see if you type them in the chat box. We do have a lot of new agents that are signed up for today's webinar. So I am going to start at the beginning and show you how to log into your control panel, as some of you may not have already been in the control panel yet. So once you're on your website, you want to go down to the bottom and click sign in. Okay, it's going to ask you for a username and a password that you were assigned or set up when you created your website. And that brings you right into your control panel. So before we get started, I want to just talk a little bit about what SEO actually is. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. So what is search engine optimization? Search engine optimization refers to searches such as Google. You also have a lot of other, Google's the most popular one. I believe that's what probably everybody in this day and age really relies on and uses to search the internet. And the optimization, or the SEO, that we are going to talk about implementing for your website is what allows Google to track your website from. Okay, it does an analysis, and it goes out and it scrolls or patrols your website, and based on your SEO, that will determine where your agency shows up in a search engine, or search results, I'm sorry. It's a huge topic. It isn't something that's one and done. You do it, you let it go, and phew, take a deep breath and glad I got that done. It is constantly changing. One of the things that when Agent Studio redid the control panel, one thing that they did, which was fabulous, was to create a separate SEO and analytics section within your control panel. So if you're following along, you want to go ahead and click on the general SEO. What you will find at the top is just a little statement about what SEO is, basically what I just went over with you. But below that, you will have, you see, click here for the SEO guide. And this is like Google's SEO guide for beginners, basically. And it is a great start, and it does provide a lot of really good information. My suggestion to you, and this is exactly what I did, print out this guide. Oh, sorry, I always forget that there's a huge white space at the top of this. Let me just download it into Adobe. Print this guide out, read through it, write notes on it. You will refer to this many times over because there's so much information contained in this document. As you're going through, there are also additional links. So I'm scrolling down to try to find a couple. The anatomy of a Google search. Okay, you want to go through and you really need to click on all of the additional links that are included in this, because it will give you a broader understanding of what SEO does, how it does it, because you want to get your agency on the first page of Google searches, whether it be for Florida travel agents, Florida travel agencies, whatever category it is, and it should be numerous that you want to be on the first page for. you really need to understand all of these additional features. So it will take you a little bit of time to go through the document. I've gone through it. I'm on my way back through it, actually for a second time, because like I said, there's so much included in this document, and you want to be able to soak in all that information and really understand it. Otherwise, all of your efforts are not going to maximize the value of what you're putting into your SEO. So you want to make sure that the time you do have to spend on SEO for your agency, you're making the most out of that time. Because I know we're all busy. You know, we have other agents we're trying to train, we're trying to sell travel ourselves, run our agencies. It's a lot. It really is. So make sure that you go through this. I have mine printed. I'm using it today. And every time I give an SEO webinar, I utilize this document because I have notes written on the sides of my pages of things I want to share with you all. I have notes for myself of what I, need to fix, need to do within my agency. So definitely this is the first step for you. And, if you only have a little bit of time, go through a few of the pages and take a break. Sometimes this isn't, I often say, hey, do some social media planning at night before you go to bed. This isn't one of those topics that you want to do at night when you're trying to fall asleep or have 15 minutes. Because when I go through this, I have my laptop out, I have the binder out, I have highlighters, a writing, whether it's a pen or pencil. So this isn't one of those times that I'm going to recommend you do this to try to fall asleep. We have a question from Francis. Where do we find this document? So Francis, if you go to your website, your Agent Studio website, I'm going to X out of that. Go to your control panel, and you get to your control panel by signing in at the bottom. Once you're in your control panel, you want to click on SEO and Analytics, and then click on General. This first button will bring up that guide for you. And then if you want to export it to Adobe and then print it, which I recommend, you click this button and then it will show up in your Adobe. And you can just print it from here, save it from here, and take all of, start taking all of your notes into that document. Okay, sorry. And this webinar will be recorded, and at the end, I will show you where to locate the webinar replay within 24 hours after the webinar is over. So with that being said, I do know that this is a lot. So again, not something to do at night. First thing in the morning is a good thing. I do it sometimes if I tend to try to go to the gym on days. My daughter works at 7:30 in the morning, so we have to get there and get back. When we go at 5 a.m., I get back, and some mornings I will use this to kind of decompress. So it's a good topic to work on before your agency opens, before you start getting calls from agents and emails. Hey, I missed my flight. I want to go to Jamaica tomorrow. Before you start getting into all the craziness, because I've found that trying to work this in midday or even anytime throughout the day, once I've started getting into agent mode, it's really hard because there is a lot to learn. It's a lot different than, thinking about scheduling a social media post or sharing, the latest news article from your website. So just my pointers, you might be totally different, but just trying to share my experience with trying to learn SEO. So I'm going to jump out of this. And once you print this, the next thing that you should do is you should install Google Analytics on your website. So if you click on the second tab or the second line item under SEO Analytics, you'll see where it says Google Analytics. And once you click on that, it brings up this screen. There's a short video that explains to you how to set up your account. It also goes through and has these steps, which are step-by-step through every aspect of setting up Google Analytics, your account, and adding it to your website. Okay, if you run into issues with this, can walk through. It isn't that difficult, but it can be, overwhelming, because when you go into Google Analytics, there's a million different options. You can add Google Analytics to your blog, to all these different accounts. There's so many different add-ons and features of the analytics component that you can easily get sidetracked and get lost within the process. So if you watch that short video and walk through these steps and you're still having some difficulties getting it set up or understanding what you need to do, please go ahead and you can jump into your help center, which is also in your control panel, and scroll down just to the middle of the page and click here to submit a support ticket. And you can fill in all the information and let them know exactly where you're having the issue, and they can follow up with you and help you with finishing the setup process. Because if you don't set up a Google Analytics account and add that to your website, you're not going to know how your SEO is working. Okay, and once you do set up some SEO on your site, it's going to take a few weeks to a month to really get traction for Google to go out and, scan your site and to start actually having any information to report back to you. So it does take a little bit of time. It won't be instantaneous. And again, don't get discouraged, because it isn't a one and done thing. That's why if you're like me and you've started receiving a lot of emails, I get them probably 10 to 15 a day from companies wanting to set up my SEO, look at my SEO. I would love to be able to, hire the best agency out there for SEO and get to the front page, but I would rather give it the old college try myself, for a few months and see how everything is going. And then if I'm having issues, reach out to Agent Studio, get their advice. If, 6, 7, 8 months down the road, I'm still not seeing any change, then possibly investing the money at that time. But I get very skeptical, because you never know. The best agencies are way out of my price point. So they may or may not be out of yours. So it's hard to find, that agency that you trust to do it. So give it a shot yourself. If you're like me, I feel a sense of accomplishment after I try things. I love learning. I want to know every aspect of the business, because I don't want somebody pulling the wool over my eyes. And I want to know enough about each aspect of my business that I can tell if somebody's, trying to pull a fast one or not, or if, they're really legit and they know what they're talking about. Okay, so moving on, and assuming now that we have the guide printed out, you have Google Analytics set up on your website, on your Agent Studio website, it's time to dive into the different aspects of what SEO is. And there are 3 key components of that, and you can see them if you're on the general SEO screen. You can apply some general SEO to the overall website. And, it gives you a little blurb in the middle that these fields are used to modify your tags, your phrase, and the search engine keywords. So these, first of all, the search engine title. On my main page for my general, I have my website name. the next section is basically your 30-second elevator pitch in words. Okay, it should be cut down to 2, maybe 3 sentences. This is the description that is going to show up about your agency in the search results. So if you are looking and you go in and you search let me go in and open up. Let's just bring mine up for. Okay, so the first thing that comes up when you Google my company name, you see I'm on Google. I have set this up through Google Plus, and then if you scroll down, you can see there's just a very short 1 sentence here. Now, this isn't the same as what I have posted. Let me get out of this to get back. So you see I have like a two sentences here. But what Google does, Google will scroll your website. It takes into account all of this information, but it doesn't necessarily use all of it. It uses what is relevant, what they think is relevant to what is on your page. And it's chosen that 1 sentence because you can find that if you go to my homepage, that is exactly what's on my website on the very first page. Whoops, let me X out of that. Okay, so if you want something more to show up like this, if I wanted to change this and I want something more, I probably would need to remove this from my homepage because Google has searched my site and it does analytics of its own in the background. And this is what it feels best describes my agency. And then it gives my different pages. Now, it would supply more pages, but I don't have, and I'm always honest and truthful with you all when I give webinars. I would love to say that my website is on point with SEO, but it's not. It's not by a long shot. When Agent Studio started building my site way back years ago, at the bottom of the pages, they would put a word or two in. Going to jump back into my control panel. So they would put a couple words at the bottom of each page, sometimes not in every aspect. They might put the search engine title, which would be the name they gave to the page. But that's it. So I have pages that might have a title and they don't have a description. They don't have keywords. I have a lot of pages on my site. So it's a work in progress for me, definitely. And I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to share that with you. That's just the way it is. But if you haven't started building out your website yet, and you're in the process of customizing it and adding pages, don't do what I did. Add your SEO as you go, because now I'm sitting with pages. And if I go here and show you my site pages, I have a ton. This goes on for days. Okay, so you can see I have a lot of SEO to do. And now some people, in one of my other webinars, someone said, well, once you set up the first page, why can't I just take all of this information and just copy it onto each and every page? Great thought. However, what Google does is when it is searching and scouring your website, it goes to each page. It scans that page and it wants to be specific. You should have specific information on there, because what's going to happen is if every page shows up the same as far as your search engine keywords, the same title, you're not going to get as much traction, and it will actually drop you down in search engine results. So definitely while it's a good thought and it might be a quick solution, it isn't the best solution in this scenario. Now, part of that you can do is you can take some of the general search engine keywords that you want your agency to show up for can be copied and added to each page. But don't just go through and add those same keywords. For instance, if you look at, I have my agency name, the word travel, which is generic, but it should be in there. Travel Pulse News, Travel News, Alabama Travel Agency, Auburn, Alabama. These are all specific keywords that you can put on every page. But when I go to another page, so if I go to specialty travel, when I get back here and I click on this page for bachelor and bachelorette parties, I do not want the same SEO showing up. Like, I'm going to use bachelor, bachelorette parties, bachelor parties. I'm going to call out some of these locations that I have on my website. I'm going to look through what I've written on here. I'm going to pull out some of these descriptives that I have in the verbiage that I have on this page. Okay, that verbiage and descriptives are going to be totally different than keywords that I want to use to promote this Disney inspiration page. Now, granted, destination wedding can be done across Disney. I'm getting ready to do a destination wedding that is in Walt Disney World. However, for the most part, those two travel segments do not cross. Okay, so for that reason, if you're ready, you can take, and I have this set up, take these keywords. Let me jump back. Okay, I'm going to get out of the anatomy of a result. I need to jump back into the main page. So I have these main words in a Word document. I can open it up when I get to that next page that I'm ready to work on. I will copy all of these, paste them in this box, and then at the end, I'm going to go in and I'm going to put all the descriptives for that particular page. Now, with that being said, your search engine description for that page, I want it to be different. I want it to be something that pertains just to that page. This information here that is on the general tab is just a generalization about your entire business. So when I get to the bachelorette party, I'm going to think about what my 30-second elevator pitch for that particular segment would be. I'm going to type it out, and then I'm going to shrink it down to be a sentence or two. And then that's what you want to put into the search engine description. And then your search engine title. The title is extremely important because the title is what is going to show up in your URL. Okay? It gets a little tricky because you only have 20 characters to use for the title. And let me jump to an actual page so that I can show you at the bottom. Let me see. Let me go to I have a question. I will grab your question in 1 second. I just want to, let me look at this. Okay, this is the collection. Okay, this is the hotel and resort collection, specialty resorts and hotels that we work with. Okay, before I do that, Francis says, I have an SEO through GoDaddy. Should I still do the SEO through here? I use Agent Studio website through GoDaddy. My first suggestion would be yes, you definitely should, because I know I haven't explored GoDaddy's SEO, but now that you mentioned that you have it, I definitely will. My website and domain and everything is through GoDaddy as well. I'm interested to see what the costs are And I would love it if you would share your feedback with us on now and let us know, if you don't mind, what the monthly cost is or what the yearly cost is if it's done on a yearly basis and how it's been working out for you. I also know that unless you have given GoDaddy, unless they request your login to your control panel and they go in and physically set this up for you and for each page, your pages aren't going to have anything down here. Okay, they're going to be empty. So I would love for you to share a little bit more about that with us, and let us know a little bit more about it. So while Francis hopefully is typing and sharing a little bit more about the GoDaddy SEO opportunity, when you come to any of your pages, you can see at the bottom, these are empty. So these pages are not showing up. There's nothing in there. And I don't want to take and just paste, this is what I was referring to, under the meta keywords. These are the keywords that if somebody searches, you want your agency to pull up for, or this particular page. So if somebody wants to look for a certain resort, or even the bachelor and bachelorette parties are a better example to more easily understand. I want them, if they're looking for a bachelorette or bachelorette party event planner or travel agent to help them plan their destination bachelorette or bachelor party, I don't want them to be brought to my homepage and then them have to decide, I wonder where that's at. And that is why Google will not allow you to show up high up in the search results if it doesn't pull up your specific page where you talk about your bachelor and bachelorette party planning services or ideas. Because when I search, I don't want to have to go to a web page and go to the homepage and be, okay, I want Tahiti, but where do I go? I'm going to click out of this. I'm going to go back to search results and I'm going to look for something else because I want to click that link. I want to be brought right to the page where it talks about Tahiti. So that hopefully will explain in a really precise way why it's so important to have down in the meta keywords specifics about that particular page. Does anybody have any questions so far about anything? I know that I've just gone through a lot in just 30 minutes time. Okay, Francis hasn't shared. So hopefully, Francis, you will share a little bit of that information about GoDaddy. So moving along, one thing I do want to point out to you is Google AdWords. Some of you may be familiar with what they are. You can basically buy your way to the top, to one of the top spots on, a search for online travel agency or travel agency. If we go and we search, let's go and just search travel agency. So you see what we have, a handful of these that pop up at the top. Liberty Travel. Okay, you get a wide variety of, I actually picked a bad example. I wanted to show you, let me see, online travel agency. And it's Kayak, okay? A lot of these, Kayak, anything that you see that has the ad in front of it, they're paying Google basically to be up there. They have signed up for Google AdWords. I worked for a large software company before as an accountant for almost 9 years before I went out and did travel on my own. That's how I got into the travel industry, through corporate travel. But they would spend thousands of dollars every month. Thousands. So you will never, if somebody has paid for AdWords for, online travel agency, OTA, if we look up OTA, well, it's giving us, actually, I guess that's a bad one. Now, why is it doing it now? Because if I look up OTA, I'm getting Expedia, Priceline, Booking.com. So now I don't know why it's coming up this way, but that's what I normally get. But they all pay to be up there. They're huge. So one thing that you should keep in mind, you probably will not ever be in the top spot unless you're paying for it. And honestly, it's not worth it, because I saw them spend thousands of dollars every month to be at the top. So when you're setting up your SEO, just keep in mind that you can't beat the AdWords. You can join them, but you just can't beat them. Okay, thanks, Francis. I know I was bugging you about sharing this, but I was kind of excited to get some additional information about it. So Francis says that the SEO through GoDaddy list price is $83, $88 per year. She paid about $58, $59 because she has a domain through them, which probably I would say probably 95% of us on the webinar have our domains through GoDaddy. They do not do the pages for you. You have to do them yourself, like what you just showed us. After my year is up, I'm going to cancel and just go through OA, since it's basically the same. Oh, so OA meaning outside agents. And so basically, Francis is with a host, and that host is outside agents. So they must have some type of SEO service that they offer. So if you're canceling after the year is up, you probably aren't seeing much or many results from what you paid for. Oh, through okay, doing it this way. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I would have a hard time. I know that with GoDaddy, they sell everything under the sun, and they're always trying to upsell us and give us a ton of options when we're doing renewals and adding a new product. But without them logging in to our backend, into our control panel, and setting up the particular information, I would be curious, and I'm going to add that to my to-do list to try to investigate a little bit further. And I've since recently added a section to my blog, misstravelist.com, that is for travel agents. And I'm starting to explore things such as this. So I think this might be a great interview / blog that I could do about what their process is, what they offer, and can add that to my blog, because I do a lot of this, and my blog mainly was just for, consumers, travelers, things of that nature. And I get a lot of questions throughout the webinars and even after, and they're great topics, but I don't want a second blog. I don't want to manage two. So I just updated it, added a new tab, and I'm going to start writing some blogs about, things such as SEO that help travel agents and will help you with your business. So definitely, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. That's something that I'm definitely going to look into, and hopefully be able to interview someone in that department with GoDaddy and see exactly what they have to offer. The one thing about the title, the page name, and the SEO meta title, in the grand scheme of things, these should be exactly the same. However, the hotel and resort collection is way too big to fit in the page name, 20 characters. So as I started learning, now obviously I've set up all of these pages. I've, am now starting to do and work on the SEO, because really the additions to my website have kind of slowed down. But I also say, and this I am going to knock on wood, because every time I get, okay, I'm caught up with the trips, everybody's good to go, I'm going to spend, half a day working on my SEO. I get bombarded with trips or, booking. So, which is a great thing to have. So every time I do a webinar, especially on SEO, I talk about this, and I am yet to get back and really be able to spend any quality time working on the SEO for my website and all these pages. Because with me, and this is something that really take note to, because I don't want you to mess up your website. So if you have pages that are linked to other pages, like I do, so let's take this specialty travel. I'm going to click on the hotel and resort collection. All of my pages are linked to other pages. That's why I have so many. When I scroll down through my list of pages at the beginning, they're linked somewhere. Okay, so when I click on Hotel Royal Riviera, this pops up. Okay, now I'm logged in, so you're seeing the edit image slider. Normally, without me being logged in and you just going to my site, you wouldn't see this. But under this fact sheet, this fact button is linked to a page. Okay, this is linked to the fact sheet for this hotel. This prezo is linked to a presentation about this hotel. So when I go in and I start to edit these pages, if I want to change my title for this page now, I need to go back, I need to jump back. If I want to change this title, it's going to change the URL. This URL is linked to something. I have to make sure that when I am doing this, I am changing and updating this name, the URL, and the page title in my SEO. Then I have to go into where this page is linked to, and I have to update that link. You might not be to that point yet where you have pages linked to pages linked to pages, but if you do, don't just start willy-nilly, oh, I'm going to just update all of this, because none of your links will all be broken then. So make sure you have a plan when you start. That's another reason why I haven't started working on the pages that are already done, because it's a chore and I have to make sure I do it right, because I started and I did a few pages and then didn't even think about it. And had one of my friends, I have a great friend who's always sharing my site. She's like my biggest cheerleader. And she said, hey, I just went on, because she went and she stayed at a couple of these specialty hotels. And she's like, I just went on to show someone, Hotel Royal Riviera, and the link is broke. What's going on with your site? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe it's, first thing I think of is Agent Studio. I'm going to blame them. It's, the server. So I go in here and I'm looking, and it took me a little bit of time to figure out I had changed the name, and which changed the URL, which broke the link, because the link is this URL link right here. So don't do that. And especially if you haven't started really building out your website to customize it yet, do it page by page. I regret the fact that I didn't, but I basically jumped. If you're a Steve Harvey fan, you know that he has a book called Jumped, where you basically just take a leap of faith and dive into the new business that you want. That's basically what I did. I had a plan, and that plan didn't work out. And I walked in one day to my accounting job and said, I have to quit. I'm done. I gave a 3-month notice, working part-time to finish up, the audits and things I was working on. So I didn't really have time. Like I quit and then went to Shay at Agent Studio and said, okay, now I'm freaking out. I need my website done. So it was, how can we get the pages up and get everything created so that I had an online presence, because nobody knew me from Adam. I had just created my agency. I was doing it on the side. So definitely, I did what I had to do considering where I was, but I kind of regret it now because I have so much work to do to go back and fix it. Now, I do show up in some high up in some general searches for agents, but not like I want. What sets me apart is, all the different specialty things and stuff like that. So, and I don't have, other than I do's, I don't have the traditional titles. I'm not a real traditional person in that respect. I like having the little catchy names, and that doesn't work well as far as just getting people to my homepage. Book now is obvious. I do's are obvious. Corporate is obvious, but specialty travel, they might not. What is that? And if what they need is under that tab, a lot of people probably aren't going to try to explore and find out. So definitely, it does and will take you longer. But once you get in a routine of thinking about, naming your page and giving it a title and knowing that, they should match, they should be cohesive, it will start to become easier for you. Now, the URL is made from your page name. So basically, and if this, I covered this in my custom creating web pages webinar as well. But if you're coming in here and you're creating your page, the page name is basically becomes the URL, and all you do is just retype the page name. Do not call these page names like page 1, page 2, or TACT page 1. TACT are the initials for my agency. You don't want to use pages like that or names like that, because you want this URL to be memorable. You want people to be able to think about what this name is. So if I go back and I go to the bachelor and bachelorette party page as a test, let's see what the name of that is, because that's very specific. It is something that I definitely want visitors to remember. And so the page that I was showing you, the hotel and resort collection, there are 3 pages for every one of those hotels that I've set up. So that's, and that's a lot of these, that's what it is. Now, why can't I find it? Now, I did have a different layout. When my website was first set up, it had a totally different layout than it has now. And oh, here we go. Of course, it's right at the top, and I totally went beyond it. So, bachelor, this is bachelor/at parties. So, what I did in the name, which technically isn't the right way to do it, instead of just retyping this, I actually put bachelor, bachelorette -party. So this actually, just by mere coincidence, is actually going to fit in with SEO. So when I come down here and I'm ready to do the SEO, bachelor and bachelorette parties, that's fine. But I still need to fill in the description and the keywords, because the keywords, this is what's going to pull our pages to the top of search, or even have them show up on page 10 of a search result. So definitely the keywords are important. Does anybody have any questions so far about the additional information that I went over in regard to, matching or making your page names and URLs cohesive with your SEO titles and how the keywords all form a description of what is contained on that page. Has anybody that is on the webinar, has anybody worked, other than Frances, who was so kind to share with us her experience with SEO, has anybody else worked on their SEO within the Agent Studio platform? And if you have, would you mind, sharing with us how the search results, how you're showing up in search results and searches? I would love to hear and would love to be able to share a little bit with everyone that's on the webinar. Let me see. We do have a question from Marilyn. As a new agent, how can I get more individual assistance? One of the ways, so you can always reach out to Agent Studio support. Now, that's probably, you can send them, you can open up, oh shoot, I can't even think. A support ticket, geez. One of my advices or tips for getting through to support is put in a support ticket, as opposed to just emailing support@agentstudio.com, because they use a system and they run through, the tickets go out, they're dispersed, and, as one ticket is responded to, the next one moves up the list. And if that queue is full, they may never check their email till, late in the day. So if you've submitted an email as opposed to a support ticket, it could take a little bit longer to get some help. Also, keep your support tickets very precise. If you can't set up your Google Analytics, I put in a support ticket for that. If you are stuck trying to add a video or create an iframe onto a page, put in a separate support ticket for that. That way, your multiple requests don't get lost, because they might look at the first, breeze down through the support ticket, but if there's multiple items on there, 1, 2, 3 might get lost in the shuffle. So make sure that you're submitting separate support tickets. Now, that may or may not answer your question, but it will give you a start. One thing that I've suggested also to Agent Studio is to offer just some one-on-one consulting. I am in the process of starting to do that, but I need to get through the hump of where I am right now. And like I mentioned, every time I just brought on a few new agents, which I want to get them comfortable with a little bit more, or really get myself comfortable with where they're at with their abilities, so that I can then turn my focus a little bit more toward doing some more online training, some more one-on-one consulting, and because there's a huge need for that. And I've even had people that have jumped on webinars that don't have Agent Studio websites, that have heard from friends of a friend who has an Agent Studio website and said, hey, she might be able to help you with X. So it's shown me that agents really need that, and I love to teach. So I will be doing that. I would like to say within the next couple months is my goal. So I'm hoping that, I can stick to that, but that's something that I'm working on as well. So hopefully that will be an option for you in the future. I don't, honestly, if I knew anybody else that did some consulting, I would gladly share it with you, because I think the pie is huge. The need is really, really out there for that, but I don't. And like I said, I mentioned it to Agent Studio, and it just isn't one of the priorities right now, or they aren't able to offer that right now. So just, keep submitting those support tickets, and you can always reach out to me as well. My email address is in your confirmation for the webinar registration. And I know sometimes I mention things and I do a lot of things or bring in actual experience, which I think is something that is a good teacher. You know, those experiences help teach you and explain to you things in a better way than support, because a lot of times people in support for any company aren't actually using the product or that tool to actually run a business or to market or that type of thing. So I can bring in a different outlook or a different view on something that makes it a little bit easier to understand. So, you know, if you get an answer back and it just doesn't quite answer your question, please feel free to reach out. It may take me, you know, 24 hours to get back to you, but I try not to make it be that long. But definitely reach out if you have any questions. Great question. I love that. So Julian says, sorry, I came in a bit late, but I'm currently using Wix to manage my website, but I would be open to using Agent Studio to manage my domain. Is there a way to use my own domain similar to how you have Taylor & Company Travel? Yes. If I go into add on new features, so for me, I have, I'm on the elite plan, so everything is included. But you can add on if you have one of the packages, like a free site or the starter, you can add the domain manager to your package. I think it's $10 a month. However, I know enough about your question to make me a little dangerous. So I'm not really sure how. I think I know in my mind what you want to do. You want to keep your Wix site, but have some of the Agent Studio features integrated. Is that correct, Julian? Now, with that being said, if that is kind of what you're leading up to, the only way, and I've had this question from a couple other agents in the past, they just didn't want to change because they had their site is up, they like their site, but they want some additional features from Agent Studio. I'm the same way with my blog. My blog was already up. It's, you know, the way I want it. I just revamped it a little bit to give it a new look and feel. And I don't use the blog feature within the Elite plan for that reason. But I do integrate it by iframing in my blog to my homepage. So if I go to my homepage and I go down just a little bit, we'll see blog. And I needed to click out of that. I have too many windows open. It's going to mess up my page. But if I click blog, you'll see that my blog is integrated via iframe. That is how I would suggest, it's probably going to take a little bit of tweaking, but that's how I suggest being able to integrate your Wix website into Agent Studio. Now, I did mention this to one of the other agents that had asked about this. I don't know what the Wix backend looks like. So, meaning the control panel for your site. Are you able to get in and copy the code? If you click on your pages, this is getting a little out of the realm of today's webinar, but I don't mind because we had a little bit of time left. So if I come in here to one of these pages, I want to get a page that actually has some decent information. So if I come in here and I click on one of my pages and I go down to the source, are you able in your Wix site to come in and, because the person didn't really like the iframe idea, but the only other way that I could think of, yeah, exactly. Pull the code out and then the main pages that you like. And I told her as well, don't get rid of your Wix site because that's where, you've built up a following there, but you can take and, pull that in and hopefully paste it here and recreate the pages that way. So hopefully that gives you some insight on how you can possibly make that happen. Great questions. Thank you so much. Francis asked, does the domain manager mean you can purchase a domain name through here? No, you still have to purchase it through another third party, which I've brought up to Agent Studio that they should do that, and I know it's one of the items on their list. You would still purchase it from GoDaddy, but you add it in through your control panel. Let me see, site configuration, I believe, and you would go to manage site domains and you would set it up in here, because you see this test Taylor and Co travel.agent studio is the name that or the URL that I was given when I signed up, but my domain that I purchased through GoDaddy, which is my vanity domain, as they like to call it, is set up as my primary. So you would still purchase it from somewhere else and add it here through the control panel. I keep telling them they should do that. I know it takes a lot to manage, to us, those little third-party tools seem like, oh, it's easy, it's just a reseller, but there is a lot of, technical, a technical aspect to it to get it all integrated into the system. And that's something that I didn't realize until I really started digging in and reaching out, saying, when I started doing the webinars, like, hey, why don't you do this? Or why don't you add that? And then I started, digging in, and they, gave me some more detailed information. So because I'm very inquisitive, I like to know I like to lift up the hood and see how everything works, because that allows me to understand more what I can do within the platform, which has allowed me to think way outside the box with what you can do with Agent Studio that I can realize and have done now than what I realized when I first signed up with them years ago. So go ahead. We still have a couple minutes. I'm going to walk through, let's see, Marilyn has a question. On your domain, the main page opens, does it show as your AG name? I think you meant Agent Studio name. No, it opens up as Taylor and Co Travel. And that's because I set it up through the control panel utilizing that domain manager. Okay, so what it does, it overrides the Agent Studio domain. You're welcome. Please keep them coming for another minute or so. I'm going to, in the beginning, I mentioned that this would be recorded and the replay would be available within 24 hours. It will be uploaded to the Agent Studio YouTube channel. And within 24 hours after the webinar ends, you will also receive a follow-up email from Zoom that will give you the link that I'm about to show you. It won't lead you to the exact webinar, but it will lead you to the page that has the webinars on it. So from here, you want to go to get to the replays, you want to click on the videos page, and you will see them here. Now, yesterday I brought this up, but I didn't realize what this was because it said Agent Studio Academy course, and that's all it said. And so I thought, I don't know what that is, but it is, it was creating new website pages. So they just changed the title a little bit. So it threw me off for a minute, but yesterday's webinar will be up shortly, and then today's webinar will be up within 24 hours. Usually all the webinars or the videos on here that are over an hour or close to an hour are all my webinars. So if you do get a chance to go back through any of these, I know creating website pages is a good one to watch a couple different of the webinars, because different questions lead to us chatting and learning about other areas of that topic. So if you do get a chance, and I know we're all busy, it's a great idea to go back and watch some of those as well. So this is where it will be. Let me just double check. You're welcome, Julian. So if you have any questions after the webinar, again, please submit a support ticket or reach out to me via email. I'm always glad to answer questions and help out any way I can. Since we don't have any more questions right now, we are actually out of time, and I know that we're all super busy, so I don't like to keep you any more than right around that hour. So I want to thank everyone for coming and joining today's webinar. You were great. I love all the questions. Definitely keep them coming, because you all on the webinars actually make the webinar into a great learning tool with all of your questions. So definitely keep those coming when you join future webinars, and I hope to see you all on a webinar in the future. Have a great rest of your Thursday and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining.